I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the most influential basketball podcast. I am Ben Detrick. Jordan Redaelli is on Christmas holiday.
Cool.
Yeah, Christmas holiday. Similar to vacation, it's seasonal. Andrew Kuo is not on Christmas holiday.
I don't observe your pagan rituals.
Easy.
No, I observe the crap out of them.
A lot of people don't know that Cookies is now highly Christian. We've become sort of a religious podcast about basketball, and it's all Christmas that changed my opinion on religion. I love it now.
We can finally say Merry Christmas, and we are the mecca of basketball podcasts.
Basketball Jesuses. Jeezi, I believe would be the phrase.
More Jeezi. Man, how was your holidays, dude?
Well, I mean, I saw you for like half of it.
We only hung out during the whole break. And we even visited our long lost brethren on his vacation too.
Yeah, the overlapping Cookies vacations.
Yeah.
Christmas in New York is fun.
It is, man. But isn't it getting more, I say this word all the time, isn't it getting more melancholy, kind of? I live downtown.
God.
No whist.
Did you just kick into whist mode immediately? I brought up Christmas and you got wistful.
'Tis the season.
All right. Go off, Whist King.
No, but you just, I guess I notice more. It's emptier and more places are closed, and it's it kind of makes me realize that no one's from here. Everybody who lives in my neighborhood leaves to go visit their families wherever their families will be, and it's less of a joyous thing in New York, and that's too wistful. It's pretty awesome, but I just realized it's kind of empty.
I think it also depends on the neighborhood.
100%.
Because in Greenpoint,
Was it
there
poppin'?
there are some people who leave, but there are a lot of people who stay because it is a heavily Polish neighborhood. So there are tons of people who are not leaving to go back to Poland. This is where they live, and this is where they're from, and this is where their families are. So while you walk around Williamsburg and there were it was a ghost town, the sausage spot had a line out the door.
Yes.
in Greenpoint.
Yo, I can't even get into a Chinese restaurant all week. Nah, mostly Christmas Day. But I used to like going, I think we talked about this last year on Cookies, but I used to go get Chinese food on Christmas because I enjoy Chinese food and I enjoy Christmas. But now it's a whole thing, and people just flock down to Mott Street and queue up for those delicious dumplings.
I think it depends on neighborhoods where there are renters versus people who own, because people who own are older and more likely to have families, so they stay put. Neighborhoods that are heavily renters at this point, like the Lower East Side, are more likely to empty out, or Williamsburg. Like Fort Greene, there were tons of people around because that's a property owner's neighborhood.
Oh, interesting. Right.
I don't know that this is true, but like everything else on
Checks
Cookies, it's a speculative idea that is almost certainly right.
Well, we looked into going to some very Christmassy restaurants, and I wonder, it started to occur to me, maybe I'm living the Hollywood or the Christmas Story movie version of Christmas, because I remember we were figuring out where we could go, and I'm like, anywhere that was French and had candles around sounded good.
Is that the criteria for a Christmassy restaurant? Yeah. Is it French, and is it based on the lighting?
That's what I'm wondering. our Christmas, thankfully, was not like Eyes Wide Shut, but I think that movie has a vibe that reminds me very much of Christmas, of like glowing colored lights.
What about Italian food for Christmas? Does that work for you?
Does not. I considered it. It has to be some sort of French variation of food.
Why?
I don't know. Where does that come from?
So I'm saying, give me some background on this highly specific criteria. Like, do you associate Christmas with France?
Well, like oysters and geese, right? Like when people cook a goose for Christmas, and I know French people eat oysters on Christmas. Oh, happy Boxing Day, by the way.
Huge Boxing Day energy on this pod today.
Boxing season. I just found out our buddy told us what Boxing Day meant. I thought it was related to some sort of political movement around some sort of sporting reference, but it's about actual boxes.
It's a Canadian holiday. The day after Christmas. I thought, and this was apparently incorrect also, weirdly, I thought that it was about returning gifts that you didn't like. Happy Boxing Day. I'm taking this back to the store and exchanging it for something I really want.
Man, oink, oink, you capitalist pig.
You're it's a Boxing Day stat hog.
Yeah, so it turns out our buddy, and I may be getting this wrong, it was about the leftover kind of celebratory items consumed by the bourgeois on Christmas, and then the staff or upstairs downstairs wise would take like the leftover gifts and leftover food and have their own party because everyone was too hungover from Christmas. The rich people were just like, do your thing, I'm just gonna lounge in my onesie all day.
So it is not a Canadian holiday, it's a British holiday or a Commonwealth nation holiday. So it looks like there are competing theories for the origins of the term, according to Wikipedia. Something about collecting Christmas boxes of money or presents is listed here. There's also something about a present or gratuity given on Christmas to perhaps the staff. Anyway, I'm done with this Boxing Day holiday. It's not for us. It's not for me.
Well,
it's about fisticuffsmanship.
Well, isn't it? My take, like everything that's vague just ends up being what you're thinking about anyway. And for me, Boxing Day is about the Knicks who were ousted from Christmas Day festivities.
It's about the Knicks and punching people in the face and
enforcing the hell out of the Mecca
and protecting that goddamn garden.
When they play the Nets from Brooklyn, New York, they're gonna box the crap out of a Dinwiddie.
How do you feel about the Knicks being banished from the NBA's Christmas Day jamboree?
Well, they were banished from the NBA in general by themselves, but it's a bummer, man, because we love the Knicks and we're all griping about like the Warriors being on TV or the Pelicans. They won, but it doesn't matter that they won. We just want to see these colors. We want to see our guys, you know?
You want to see the Mecca, Madison Square Garden, where basketball was once played. You want to see that in sepia tones on Christmas. It fits in with the wistfulness of the holiday.
I want to see that jazzy dribbling and that enforcement, like ye old enforcement.
Let me just get back to this whole French restaurant thing, though, that you were talking about, because these are all connected. This is Christmas in New York. You want French food, you want the Knicks playing, you want Frankie Smokes. It's all intertwined. I get that.
Isn't it about Balthazar, probably the most famous restaurant of our generation, right?
Yes, I believe in this idea. Also weird when walking by Rolf's Christmas bar and seeing like 50 people lined up at 4:30. This is a bar in, I want to say it's Gramercy area. It's not quite, it's above the East Village. I want to say Gramercy, near Murray Hill. But it's a bar that's Christmas themed in that there's like lights everywhere and they serve eggnog and people queue up in huge lines during this season. Why? Why would you do that?
Is this like the reverberations of the SantaCon energy?
But people have been doing this, to my recollection, well before SantaCon. There's something about it. They go to the Christmas bar. But maybe now it's tied in with wanting it to be on Instagram. That could be the case.
Oh, interesting. It's IG bait.
I went around Dumbo for the first time in a long time. You go down there sometimes. I'm never there.
I love Dumbo.
I was down there for the first time in ages, and I didn't know that it had become an Instagram bait location. So
It's
you turn
wild.
a corner and there's 60, 80 people all kind of maneuvering to get themselves into photos where you can see the bridge, but not the other people who are around them doing the exact same exercise. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know that. I was like, oh shit, it's a Instagram location now.
Yeah, and I want to be salty about it, but then you look up and you look at the view, and it's beautiful. It's like you can see the bridge, the buildings are awesome. I'm like, oh, I get this. This is awesome.
Yeah, I wasn't annoyed or anything. I was just, I just didn't know that it was that, and it makes total sense.
I was having like maybe a cup of tea at a restaurant right next to the Palace shop downtown, and there was a guy with a really professional looking rig, like a camera, just stopping people, being like, would you like some Instagram quality photos of you walking by this nice restaurant where I was having tea? And he managed to finagle like two tourists into like taking these, I'm assuming, wonderful pictures in front of all these like potted plants and this cute French place that I was having tea at. I was like, that's a legitimate hustle. But
what's the scam? Does he charge them for it?
I guess he takes their info and then like there's an exchange of some sort. But
He sells their data? And then he runs off with his own camera.
right. He takes all the shells in a cardboard box and runs down the street.
Takes all their photos and just runs off with their images.
It was an odd scam, and of course I'm skeptical as fuck, so I think everything in New York is a scam. But it just ends up being this very wholesome thing, being like, oh, let's exchange email information, and I'll send you the photos for like a Venmo payment of $10.
Speaking of scams in New York City, there was a thread I saw on Twitter that was discussing the scam in New York City and probably elsewhere, where someone will pull up to you with a van and try to sell you speakers, and they will imply that they are stolen, that they are ill-gotten speakers of a high grade, and then try to sell you speakers which are inevitably worthless garbage. So you'll get actual speakers, but they're trash.
Wait, is this a thing?
This has been going on forever. I remember 20 years ago in New York,
What?
people trying to do this same scam. It's a well-known scam, trying to sell like basically cardboard boxes that are the worst caliber speakers for a few $100s, but implying that they're very valuable speakers.
Wait, who? I'm assuming these are old school speakers that are big. So we're not talking about little Beats pills or anything. We're talking about like these large speakers for man cave kind of situations.
Yeah, they're big-ass speakers. It's called the White Van Speaker Scam. There's another Wikipedia entry for it.
That's such a like.
I'll read the exact term here. It's the White Van Speaker Scam is a scam sales technique in which a con artist makes a buyer believe they're getting a good price on home entertainment products. They will buy generic speakers worth around $40 and convince potential buyers that they are premium worth over $2,000 and try to sell them for $200.
Man, it says Bong and Olufsen. Damn it. But that's such a specific audience, right? Like that scam is so narrow. It's as if you're like, I'm selling amazing blenders.
It's very
juice
specific,
fans.
and it's also a strange one today when most people have like a Bose or Sonos system or something like that.
That's what I'm talking about. Like
I had
speaker
not
technology.
seen it. I had not seen it for 20 years. And I want to say 3 months ago, a guy pulled up and was like, hey, I got some speakers. And I was like, oh shit, you guys have been doing this? You're back on it?
We
I
still
had not
got
seen
it.
it in decades.
Yeah.
And a guy rolled up on me like, psst. I got that speakers. I was like, what? like, who wants speakers, man?
Yo, I bet you're upset with your current speaker situation. I got the solution for you, buddy.
Psst, I got some turntables back here.
Yeah, I could tell those elbows need some scratching. But my favorite and maybe least favorite scam is when a person down on their luck bumps into you and drops a bottle of vodka and it shatters, but it's full of water. And they're just like, oh, I was taking that home to my house, but you bumped into me. Can you buy me another bottle? And it's really sad. There used to be a guy on like near where I live who would always try to pull that. And it was sad. You're just like, just take $5.
You know, the glasses one is even more annoying.
Which one's that?
Same exact scam, but with broken glasses.
Glasses are expensive, man.
Right, and they'll do that shit, and they'll try to create a scene. And I've seen it happen. They tried to do it to me one time, and I was like, dude, get the fuck out of here. Like,
Yeah.
I know this move. But I remember talking with someone, and they were describing how it had happened to them. They felt so bad, and they'd given this guy like $100. I was like, got some news for you. That guy's doing that all day, running
Yeah.
into you and then dropping his glasses.
And as an aside, I love all scammers, so every one of these people are my heroes. But another one I think that happens a lot is someone will run up to you on the street and be like, my family is in a car, I just need some money, I got a ticket, something. It's just like, I can't leave them alone in the car for that long. My kid can you just give me $20? And I'll just go right back to them, and I'll be done with my crisis. And that is also a sympathetic thing, and shout out to that scam, but I see that one kind of pulled once in a while. I like that one.
Yeah, shout out to all these scam artists. I like the low grade scammer. It's cool. It's far more ethical than trying to get into someone's bank account and stealing your identity. Like, get out there and sell it.
Yeah. I mean, the highest level scammer that I enjoy is the socialite scammer, right? The Talented Mr. Ripley, or the what's that movie called? That famous movie with Tobias Harris. No.
This is great radio. Keep going.
Great Gatsby. Thank you.
Yes.
You helped me.
Roasted into success.
Ridiculed into correctness.
I'm the Charles Barkley / Shaquille O'Neal.
You brought it out of me.
Roasted you into being good at your job.
Your mocking made me a better Potter. This is when you're like, thank you for that.
You are welcome.
But yeah, I love that level of scammer. I think that's interesting, as long as I'm not falling for it. But also, it's kind of like scamming for status is sad, and when you get busted, it's just like, oh, you've paid your price. Like,
what do you think about doing anything for clout?
What do I think about it?
About clout demons.
Clout demons. I mean, I feel like we know many of them, and we're probably guilty of that too. Come on, like, we're not.
You're a huge clout demon.
We're not Ben Simmons over here. We're not that ethical. I'm sure I do that. I like to hang out with people who I think are fun and interesting.
No, I don't think you're a clout demon. I take that back. I apologize. Andrew Kuo, for the record, is not a clout demon.
I mean, like, if I really wanted clout, I would take over the intern's job and their enraged but loyal following.
What I was going to say about scamming is the ones I don't like are the guys on the train, and they're usually young white guys, and they're very scrubby and dirty, and they're ornery as shit. And I don't like that energy on the train ride. They grumble in this really, I'll try to do an impersonation of them.
Go on.
They get on the train, they're always on the L, and it's like, can someone, anybody give me like $2?
Oh,
are you serious? None of you got, really. No one will look at all of you, and you won't give me $1. And you're like, guy, you need to shut the fuck up. This is incredibly annoying.
Is that a scam, or is that not a scam? Is that just being annoying?
It's being a bad panhandler. And I've never seen anyone give them a penny because they're awful at their job.
You know, the ones I always give money to is the kids selling money for their basketball teams. Not just because I love
Wait,
hoops.
selling money? You mean like selling candy?
It's selling candy. My bad. Like $5 for a Crunch bar. They're like, I need uniforms for my basketball team. I'm like, no, you don't. But that Crunch bar looks nice. Here's $5.
You're not on a basketball team, but you are offering me candy in exchange for money.
Yeah, I'll take those Welch's fruit snacks for $5. That's fine, man.
There was a little group of teens that would roll around North Brooklyn, and they'd have binders, and they'd be collecting money for their basketball team. I'm like, come on, you have to introduce the M&Ms back into the equation here.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this before because it seems very familiar. But respect to that scam, too, because you have laminated images in a binder. Like, that's awesome. That's worth $5. Although, where's my candy? Show me the Crunch.
Look, I respect your scam. You've dutifully laminated photos of guys making layups and shot charts, whatever is in there, rosters with stats, fictional stats from your team, like your friend's fantasy basketball organization. But I'm gonna need some M&Ms.
Oh, I see here that Gordon Hayward is off the hook, but where's my peanut M&Ms, buddy? No, there used to be a guy who would frequent bars, and we call him Sausage Face, I think, if I remember. And he used to wear a pig nose, not unlike Anthony Davis when he was a Pelican. And he would sell zines and paintings that he would make, and he would frame them with like cheap frames that he would find, and they'd cost like $20. The zines were like $40, and they were amazing. And every time he'd come in, there would always be someone saying that he was a scam artist, and I'm like, he might just be an artist.
There's a very thin line between these, as I'm sure you can attest.
It's like, how much money have you given him in your life? I'm like, probably upwards of $400, but he's just an artist. And I'm looking at like my bookshelf, and I have all of his zines and a couple of his drawings.
He keeps scamming you with these products that you're purchasing.
That I enjoy, that I look at. And I don't know. It gets to be a point where it's just like, shoo off. And I'm like, no, he's offering me something that I want. I really want this.
That's not a scam. That's a salesperson.
Yes. But anybody who isn't doing the normie transactional thing maybe is perceived as a scam.
Shout out to Sausage Face and some Gen X tranquility going your direction.
He made good drawings. They were doodly, not unlike stoner artwork, but they were awesome. And he gave himself, they were all self-portraits, and they were very whimsical, man. I really enjoyed his artwork. But he was also
why was he called Sausage Face?
I don't know, but he would wear the nose, the sausage nose or the pig nose, and be like, "What's up? I'm Sausage Face." I'm like, "What's up, Sausage Face? How you doing?" I liked it, and he was very quiet, and he would just roll around town in bars and in restaurants that would have him with like a stack of zines.
Where does Sausage Face sing his ballad today?
I don't know. He's missing, man. A lot of dudes I used to see around my neighborhood have gone MIA. The nice ones I'm sad about, but the mean ones I am not sad about.
A totally reasonable policy. So apparently you've seen a new movie about space monsters that hit theaters and is getting checkered reviews. Is that fair to say?
Star Wars was good, man. Come on.
It's not what I've heard.
Okay, what have you heard?
I heard it's bad.
I think I have this pet peeve where any redesigned logo or identity for anything we know, whether that be a sports team or like a cleaning product logo, everyone just hates it because it defies their idea of the memory of it. And don't mess with someone's memories, man. Don't mess with someone's food, and don't mess with their childhood.
Can you explain where this Star Wars movie falls in the chronology of the Star Wars universe? Because, and I'm not saying this, in jest. I have not seen any of the movies except for the original 3.
What's your problem? Where did you go wrong, man? Who hurt you?
Maybe I just grew up. I don't need space aliens and Wookiees.
Yes, you do. And I think this is a healthy dose of all of that. I am also very wistful about my childhood, shockingly. That's why I like food halls, because they remind me of the MoMA cafeteria that I used to go to with my mom. Like bad food under heat lamps. Like I really gravitate towards that stuff. And obviously, I'm a Star Wars guy. And I'm okay with my memories changing because the other option sucks. So you just have to train yourself to like accept that maybe J.J. Abrams creates a vision of my childhood that doesn't line up with the Lucas version. But I'm hopelessly annoying about this because in the same way I'm hopelessly annoying about everything, I've grown to love even episode 1, 2, and 3, which, you know, the Jar Jar Binks era that gets roasted all the time. I thought they were really unique visions of a universe.
Nostalgia is a disease.
Is it, Ben?
Yes.
But
and you've been inflicted. You are being eaten alive by nostalgia and whist, and I'm seeing it and I'm worried about you.
listen, man, Bob Cousy would house Daniel House.
He had grown adult strength, which today's players don't have. They had true strength.
Tommy Heinsohn would enforce the hell out of Luka Doncic.
Today's players don't have the killer instinct that the moonlighting plumbers of the past and drywall specialists brought to the court.
Who would you start a franchise with, Zion Williamson or Keith Van Horn?
Well, what's the difference?
Exactly. They're the same. They're like equal comps, right?
It doesn't matter.
But speaking of nostalgia in our childhood, man, end of the decade rap lists are coming out.
Oh, man, there's so many rap lists.
Rap fans love to make lists. And,
Why is that?
Because
Are we just more subjected to running into rap lists than we are, say, I don't know, Broadway show lists? Or is there something innately about rap that applies best to list format? And I'm asking you this because you worked on the Ego Trip book of rap lists, didn't you?
I was around that crew for sure. One of my first jobs was helping out this company called Stereotype that did all the bad boy stuff. So the Ego Trip guys would come in and hang out, and like they let a kid like me kind of put some input into it, and I'm eternally grateful for that. But right, I love lists. Personally, I love lists, and I love rap.
Shout out to Brent Rollins, the designer of the Ego Trip book of rap lists.
Kind of a genius, and kind of shaped a lot of the stuff we enjoy now. Back in the day, that whole crew is influential, and Mike Mills and Grand Royal and Extra Large and all that stuff. But I think my interpretation of these decade lists kind of is shaped by the fact that they all are topped by rappers that remind us of the 90s. So a lot of debate is J. Cole, Kendrick, like who had the most bars? Damian Lillard, Tyler Johnson.
Yeah. Who put up the most bars per year?
Yeah.
In the 2010s. My qualms or about this entire exercise is that I can't differentiate really when 2010 what sonically changed. We have enough distance from 2000 to remember the sound of 2002. And remember 50 Cent, Aftermath, Jeezy, Ross, all those I can connect with the 2010s. I'm sorry, with the 2000s, the first part. 2010s, I don't really know what that is. Is that just Future and Drake and
Huge,
J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, and Drake is tricky because he kind of exited to become a pop star, and Future definitely I think is up for one of the most influential artists ever, but certainly of this decade. But the first name that came to my mind was Young Thug. This decade belonged to Young Thug, right? Thugger.
I would agree. Because if you look at his trajectory, he started as a Lil Wayne knockoff, but he developed into something so different, and that he could really, really rap, and he was weird, and he was musical, and he was so out of the box, like in terms of his like fashion, being quasi homoerotic at times, and it really just was so progressive. And then it led to guys like Lil Uzi or all these
SoundCloud
various
rappers.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think Thugger is the dude.
It was amazing. I got to see him at Good Room in Greenpoint. It was Jamie XX promoting his album in the small room in Good Room. So there's like the dance floor, and then there's a little kind of chill out DJ room. And I got to see him do a bunch of songs with Jamie XX, which was kind of a thrill. I don't know. I think he is. I'm trying to think of a baller who is that influential. Like, he's James Harden, man. Like, he kind of rearranged the way I think about music, and he was very prolific and very excellent every time.
One thing that was amazing about him was that he was at times indecipherable in a way that very few other rappers have been to like my particular ears. Mm-hmm. That you couldn't understand what he was saying unless you really tried to listen. And then sometimes it didn't even matter. He would just have strings of syllables that would weave in and out, and it was totally cool. It was him just sort of caterwauling. And to your point before, where there's this, what we're going to say, sort of I'm thinking of the rappers you were mentioning, the Kendricks and the J. Coles, the guys who rap in a traditionalist sense. And he was such a thumb in the eye to that. He was just making sounds.
Yeah, I love it. I once heard an interview with Uzi Vert, who is a definite protege of Young Thug. And I think the interviewer was accusing him of not being lyrical enough. He's like, "What do you mean? I rhyme every line. I just say yeah at the end of every line," which is great. And like, like finally we don't have to talk about basketball before 1996 because the NBA didn't exist.
No. Every line ends with A.
Yeah. Shout out to Joel Santana.
A rhymes with A, sir.
Have you heard Purple Haze 2? What's up with that?
I listened to the one song where he was talking about like bringing like bricks to the Rockefeller office, and I couldn't tell if he was telling the truth or making stuff up, and it was kind of fun.
He's always fun. He's a boomer ass rapper, but I really love Purple Haze 1, man.
You know, if we're gonna go down the rabbit hole to boomer lyricism, yeah, Cameron and MF Doom were my favorites. And Ghostface. That was like the exact boomer triumvirate.
Yeah.
Weirdos who rhymed every sentence together with words that you wouldn't expect. They were all awesome at that.
Yeah, I love Quasimodo too. But you know, Kanye also has to be in this discussion. And aside from his politics and his bipolarisms, he came through this decade. I think he gave us an insane amount of cultural benchmarks, right? Like, not only with his music, but his persona, his sneaker line, his influence on fashion. I'm like, does it get bigger than Kanye? He dropped his record on Christmas, his gospel record. I listened to it. There's no rapping on it. It's just his choir singing his songs for the Sunday service. And he's turning into a kind of artist that is bleeding into what Radiohead did, right? Like, Radiohead put out an undefeated record. OK Computer was undefeated. It still sounds amazing now. And then they kind of segued into, I'm sure Deadheads would love this, because they love everything turning into their culture, but they kind of turned into a Deadhead band where they produced all this music that was whimsical, but there was a volume attached to it and a kind of casualness attached to it, where it's like another Radiohead record, side projects, bootlegs, all these things. And Kanye is starting to do that, and I think it's interesting. I like the idea of like a living album on streaming media where he just edits it whenever he feels like it. That's incredible.
So Kanye's musical output outside of production, his own solo albums this last decade would be My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy,
Pablo.
Yeezus, Life of Pablo. Yay,
Amazing.
Jesus is King. I think he gets
Amazing.
He gets two very good albums. Life of Pablo was pretty good.
Life of Pablo was incredible, and Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is a classic.
When
record.
is he gonna fix Wolves, Kuo?
I love it. I think it's fine. Wait. No, I thought in the recesses of my mind Wolves was about Andrew Wiggins, but apparently
No. What's his name? Gershon Rosas is gonna fix the Wolves.
Yo, but Taylor Swift's in that conversation of artists of the decade. Like, who are your artists of the decade musically? Future.
That's what I mean. I can't even. Yeah, like Future, Young Thug. I don't really care about anyone else. That's all I kind of have listened to consistently over like year in and year out.
Are you outing yourself as not a Swiftie?
I don't know her songs.
She's amazing. Yeah, I don't really sit down and like. Yeah, I'll sit down and listen to her albums. She's great, and I think this decade really was great for her too. I don't know, man. It was a good decade for music. I'm really happy and sad about all the dead SoundCloud rappers, but that was a huge movement, and obviously the influence of Young Thug. And he had been a decade in the game and put out his debut record finally.
When Spotify did its listing of your listening habits over the last decade, Future was at the top of like every single list I did. It wasn't even close or comparable. I'm like, all right, that's what I do. I listen to Future, I guess.
Wow, that was close because I'm an Apple Music guy reluctantly, and if they had done that, I think it would be like Bon Iver or Blink-182. Because I'm real.
And the Cookies Hoops podcast.
And the Cookies theme, my bad. It's a banger.
Just every listen to Cookies theme
You
song.
listen to this like 5 times a day, every day for a decade? I'm like, it's a jam, man.
I have put it on in the whip.
With those,
It just hits different.
some guy in some white van pulled over and was like, yo, does that really bang?
Hey kid, you need some speakers for the Cookies theme song?
Oh, the classic hustle. The Cookies white van hustle.
Oh man, I would love to hear that in my house. At a high volume with some nice tweeters and some woofers.
Nice tweeters.
Well, we've reached that 37-minute mark without talking about basketball, and I think it's time.
Is it time?
It's time.
Let's
Yesterday was like one of the 2 basketball holidays. MLK Day
Yep.
and Christmas. So we had a full slate, a smorgasbord of elite basketball action. It was like 2 good games, basically.
Right. Yeah, I don't even care that like underdog teams like the Warriors and Pelicans won. Those were not entertaining games. I just don't care.
Yeah, I wasn't interested. Like, it's cool that the Warriors won and Draymond did cool stuff, and that's great. But it didn't have the title bout feel that 2 games did. And the first one was Philly against Milwaukee, and the second were the 2 LA teams. Those were the marquee matchups because in the first game, Siakam was out.
Bummer.
Yeah, so the games were a little less exciting than they could have been. But we did get 2 heavyweight brawls.
A lot of enforcing going on. A lot of bullying going on. What'd you think of the Sixers' masterful win over the Young Bucks?
Shout out to 2003 and Young Buck.
Yeah.
G-Unit soldier. That was an interesting game because, for many reasons.
Oh, it was awesome.
For things that we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
What I did like, because I want to talk about this and we forgot to last week, or maybe we just didn't get around to it, or I hadn't thought of it, I want to talk about Giannis and his 3-ball for a little bit.
Go off, King.
Because we've brought up over the last couple of years that Giannis should not be taking that many threes. And his improvement this year made people look at us and say, see, you were wrong. He's getting better at shooting threes, and now he's a problem. He can make threes. Like, he'll destroy the league with this 3-ball that he's developing.
Right. When you watch him play, the announcers are always like, if he figures out this 3-ball, there's no stopping him.
They were saying that yesterday, just lavishing
and
him with
over.
praise about his three ball. So let me say this to start out. I commend any young guy for getting better at basketball. And if we were having a game of horse, he would now be a more ferocious competitor in that. If he was entering the three-point contest, he would have a better chance of winning. He's gotten better at shooting threes, and that is good in a universal sense. Getting better at threes is a good thing. At the same time, the NBA is a vacuum, and your individual shot chart is a vacuum. So I haven't run the numbers over the last few days. I did a couple days ago. And Giannis is developing a three ball and taking more of them has actually not helped him in any sense. And it's because he is so incredibly good at scoring on two-pointers.
Dunks,
and he
man.
shoots something like 64, 62, 63%, which is an incredible productivity on two-point shots. And he also gets to the line an insane amount. So when he's taking a three, it's lower expected value. He doesn't get fouled, and the defense doesn't guard him. So yes, it's cool that he is better at making threes, but it has actually made him arguably a worse scorer.
And just with some numbers, compared to last year, 2-point percentage, he was shooting 80% of his shots from two. This year it's 75%, which is a big difference. And he's taking more threes. Last year was 16%. This year is 25%. That's a big shift.
He's more or less exchanging points at the rim for threes.
Exactly. He's making a bad deal. He's selling stocks at their lowest value and buying stocks at their highest value.
So check this out.
What's up?
Despite the fact that his three-point percentage has gone from 25.6% to 32.7%, which is a nice leap, his effective field goal is actually dropped because his 2-point percentage has dropped a little bit.
Yeah. And this is the opposite of the range thing we always talk about. He might fall more into the lines of the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours idea. He should just dunk the ball over and over and get fouled. He is a devastating player when he just does that. He doesn't need to add another wrinkle to his game because he's unstoppable as a dunker.
His true shooting percentage has fallen from 64.4% to 61%. He's having a worse offensive season, in part because he's relying more on low value shots, which are his threes.
And there's going to be some games where he hits a bunch of threes. And then there's going to be games like yesterday where he's 0 for 7. And it all balances out. And as a team that has to face Giannis Antetokounmpo, you want him launching threes. Just take all the threes you want. Launch 15 of them. We're just going to watch these shots go up. But if he just wants to dunk, if he wanted it more, he would want to dunk on every play. That's a really big problem for your defense.
Giannis would have to shoot upwards of 40% on threes to equal the value of what he normally gets on twos. And that's before you calculate in going to the foul line. It is a bad deal for the Bucks.
Yeah, and this has Ben Simmons implications everywhere. But I think where the frustration or the story comes from is nerds told everybody that threes were the most valuable. But if you keep on listening to the nerds, shout out to Andrew Yang, there's the story kind of unfolds bigger, which is 3-point shots are valuable if you can hit them, but dunks are the most valuable. Free throws are the most valuable. But people just really gravitate towards the influence of advanced analytics as a 3-point shot. It's the free throw. Free throws are the most valuable shot in the game.
Right, and except if you can't make them. And that's really what it comes down to. Threes by themselves are not valuable unless they are actually valuable.
Right, which is so confusing, but it's absolutely true.
You've been telling me to shoot threes, and here I am shooting them, and now you're telling me I shouldn't? It's like,
right.
Yeah, but there's a number associated with that, my guy.
Yeah, my guy.
Like big dog. Yeah. look at what you're made. Well, look at your twos.
Yeah.
Go and dunk on someone's head. Stop getting cute.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because the voice of a nerd will say it's a good shot even if it doesn't go in, which is true, it's not a good shot if it does go in. So when an open three in the corner is taken and it doesn't go in, we're likely to say, as nerds, that was a good shot, but it just didn't go in. So it's perceived that all 3-point shots are kind of valuable. But if you're not hitting them, they cease to become valuable.
Yeah, but you're keeping the defense forthright. The defense is upstanding.
Yeah.
And honest and authentic and genuine and legitimate if you chuck up some threes.
We may have lost the game, but the defense was ethical.
It was pretty funny, that one shot of Giannis shooting a three with like every single other person on the court clumped beneath the basket.
Just looking up, right. Waiting for the rebound.
Sixers didn't even pretend to guard him out there. They didn't even go near him. They ran away from the brick that was incoming. It was like a mortar.
It was
just ducking for cover. And also, he wasn't even close.
Not even close. And right, I love that gamesmanship of gaslighting someone like Giannis, who ended up getting frustrated. Giannis is amazing. I think he's an MVP caliber player for sure. But watching the Sixers get in his head was amazing. And to gaslight a player like that and say, "You're the man. You got this shot. This shot makes you a complete player," and just wait for those bricks to come off that backboard. It's awesome.
Giannis is probably going to win MVP this year. He won it last year. He is incredibly good. But Philly has some answers for him, and that they have large lads in
No king shaming.
Joel Embiid, Al Horford, Ben Simmons, that just put a lot of poundage between Giannis and the basket.
Yeah.
And they did that yesterday. They didn't respect his three. He would hoist up his mortar bricks. And then when he attacked the basket, they had large lads waiting for him.
Yeah, and I like that strategy, which is like, let the middleman get his buckets. We're just going to stop Giannis. And it worked great. And, you know, some nights it won't work, but Philly is a bad matchup for the Bucks.
Milwaukee leaned into that middleman economy.
They're serving like 5 different cuisines from one kitchen. Just let them spew out that tandoori chicken and lo mein at the same time.
Seamlessly transitioned into a middleman system.
Yeah. And they didn't have Bledsoe, so shout out to that. And maybe, I don't know, they lost one game, and that was optically bad, but I still think they're an excellent team. But, oh man, Brogdon on that team would be devastating.
The Bucks are really good, and they could beat the Sixers in a series, but they don't scare me if I'm Philadelphia in the way of, we need to adapt to face this team. You can look at them and say, I'm comfortable where we're at against the Bucks. One thing that Philly did yesterday, and if you missed the game, they went out to, I forget, almost a 30-point lead at one point. The Bucks started hitting some shots late. The Sixers got a little complacent, were eating clock, and it almost became interesting, but not quite.
Horford ended it.
Yes, but one thing that I liked about the Sixers, and what I've started to see, is a little bit of a change in their offense, and it's that they don't seem to be just dumping the ball into the post to guys other than Embiid quite as much. And I looked at the numbers, and there's still some post touches going on, but it doesn't feel like they are. And it looks like when Embiid is out there, he gets the ball, they spread the floor, they do their thing. But they are really starting to pop when Simmons is on the court. And he's put up ungodly numbers over the last 2 games.
Cheat code.
Just crazy shit. I think he had 17 assists and 14 assists, something along those lines. He generated 85 points in the last 2 games off of assists alone, and it's something like 25 threes. Like that is the offense that the Sixers need to be doing. You hate to see it. But that's what the Philly needs to do. They need to feed Embiid when he has a good matchup, and otherwise turn up the speed and just fling dozens and dozens and dozens of threes up.
I like the vibe on Twitter when the Sixers play well, especially on a stage as big as the holiday, the NBA holiday, and some fans claim that their relentless criticism of Simmons is finally getting through to his head, and he's finally, Joe wants it more because we've given him so much constructive criticism that he's just a better person and better player for it. Like, get out of here, man. Like, get these Barkleys out of here.
Can someone please publicly chastise him and shame him into wanting it more?
Yeah.
Like Simmons did yesterday what he's done all year, every single game, which is push the ball up the court on every touch and try to find a three-point shooter. The guys just hit them yesterday. Simmons has done this every single game. That's why he's like top 3 in the league in assists and top 3 in the league in points created off assists and first in the NBA in creating threes. Yeah. The irony of him being shit upon repeatedly for not taking threes is that he creates more of them than literally any other player in the NBA. That's pretty cool.
There's been chatter that he isn't not only not deserving of the number 1 pick in his draft, but maybe behind Jaylen Brown, who's awesome, and Brandon Ingram, who is tantalizing, or Jamal Murray, who made a ton of money. But Simmons, if you told me the number 1 pick would be top in steals and shot creation, I would take that any day. That's a unique player.
Those players are not comparable.
No, Simmons is a bona fide star, man.
So what I've liked about the Sixers before we move on to other stuff is that I think Tobias Harris is turning the corner a bit in that he can change and become a smarter player. He can take better shots because when he's out there with Simmons, he takes 31% of his shots from 3. When Simmons isn't out there, it's something like 18%.
Because it's the Joe show, right?
But the idea of the Joe show is supposed to be that you spread the floor with shooters. But weirdly, they don't take as many threes. So Simmons and Tobias are kind of handcuffed together. So there's also more familiarity with that pairing now. But it's working. And that Simmons' insistence on people taking smart shots is making them do it. And the same thing is happening with Josh Richardson. When he's out there with Simmons, he starts taking a lot more above the break threes instead of doing his little noodly winding around bullshit.
I love that cook noodle.
The only problem with the Sixers is that Josh Richardson has not been good offensively. That's really their only problem. Everyone else is doing their thing. Richardson's been lousy. And he shouldn't necessarily be in a role of a lead guard. He really can't create. He's not particularly a volume 3-point shooter. He's just not equipped for what they want from him. He should be an opportunistic scorer, a guy who just knocks down an open 3, cuts the basket, runs out in transition, and is low volume. He shouldn't be taking 20 shots a game.
You know, I kind of disagree on your Josh Richardson take. I'm very partial to him, but statistically, he's not having a good year. I love what he does on the court. That wet noodle season action. I love him optically. He's a really
the udon man,
soba guy. the ZD enforcer. But I love him because I think he's a unique prototype. But he might be outdated now. We always talk about 3-and-D guys needing to do one more thing, and I think he's maybe somewhat exposed as some guy who doesn't really do one more thing. I still love him because I love the way he looks, and I love carb on carb.
I think he is totally suited to be a good 3-and-D guy who can do a little bit more. But as a passer and creator, he's a ramen burger.
Oh, you hate to see that too. Owned. You got me, Ben. Yeah, fair enough.
But that's the real difference in their offense between this and last year, is that there's just a huge difference between Josh Richardson and Jimmy Butler, and we knew that. We knew that. It's not even a fair comparison.
You're breaking my heart, man.
Butler, that's what
Butler's
it is.
Sick.
Jimmy Butler is leading the NBA in free throw rate. Josh Richardson doesn't get to the line. Jimmy Butler is a great passer and a great ball handler and a basketball genius in his own way. And Josh Richardson can't really see the floor. He's hesitant to take open shots. He kind of turns good looks into worse ones pretty repeatedly.
Inside Cookies, you brought up something to me a few days ago that was interesting in that obviously the Sixers is a personnel issue, but you isolated the free throw rate as a reason why they might be missing Jimmy Butler more than they think.
Absolutely. That's it. The story is the free throws. If you want to look and try to interpret why their offense, which is still top 10 after yesterday's thrashing, they have a top 10 offense. They are third in field goal percentage. They are fifth in three-point percentage. They are seventh in effective field goal percentage. This is a totally fine offense, but the difference between it being elite is free throw rate, and they've dropped from second to 18th, and it's 100% the Jimmy Butler effect. Horford doesn't go to the line. Richardson does not go to the line. And Tobias, as your second scorer, doesn't go to the line that much either.
Right.
That's what it is. That's what it is. It's swapping out Jimmy Butler for these other two dudes. They just don't get to the line. Otherwise, they're good. They need to take better shots, though, smarter ones.
Yeah. God, they would benefit from a Chris Paul prototype immensely. Someone who can get to the line, create shots, and is a snappy decision maker.
I think the Sixers are going to win the championship this year.
Yes. This is a
I think they
cookies
have
take.
I think they have the best team.
I agree.
I'm not scared of the Lakers. I'm not scared of the Bucks. I'm not scared of the Celtics. I'm not scared of the Clippers. I'm not scared of any of them. That doesn't mean they'll win it. But
Yeah.
I don't look at those teams and say, if Philly is playing how they're supposed to be and they can tighten up a couple things, I don't think those teams can beat the Sixers. Then again, if the Sixers play sloppy, they might lose to the Heat or something. I'm not saying these are definites, but I look at the Sixers and I'm like, they just have more talent than other teams.
Listen, if Charles Barkley rails into them another time, they're going to be unbeatable. Unbeatable.
But, Ennis being good and Thibault being good are huge difference makers. They just suddenly have two guys who are good. And they can be rotational. And last year they didn't have that really. They had Redick on the court who could be exposed and their whole defense would capsize. That's not an issue anymore.
Yeah. It's true. And I'm holding out hope for Zaire, but maybe Zaire can get you another piece. That's what I want. I mean, we talk about this ad nauseum, but a Zaire and a future pick could net you like a Tyus Jones or somebody. It would really help.
There are a lot of sort of small change targets that could be little difference makers. Denzel Valentine, bringing a guy who can defend, pass a bit, shoot a little bit, and just flesh your rotation out with one more ball handler that's not Trey Burke or Raul Neto, who've both been pretty good offensively, but are little and they're kind of liabilities. They're totally fine.
Yeah.
But the reality is that Trey Burke or Neto is going to get finals minutes.
Ooh.
It's true. There's no way around it. Those guys are going to get finals minutes unless you add someone else. Because Richardson cannot be your lead ball handler. They gave it a whirl. It's cool. This is not a trash Josh Richardson situation. He's just not that player. He can't be your lead ball handler. The Sixers' problems with the zones, a lot of it is Josh Richardson. He's a player who is not a decisive dude. He doesn't see the floor. He's not crisp. He is a ramen burger.
But you're asking the ramen burger to be a delicious Shake Shack burger. He is not a delicious Shake Shack burger, but sometimes the ramen burger is an oddity that you wait in line for.
I have no problem with the ramen burger here. I'm saying you can't use a ramen burger as a Shake Shack burger.
I agree, but you're asking the ramen burger to transform when it
No,
is
I'm not.
in itself just made out of ramen.
I'm saying you can't do it. The Sixers have been forced into asking him to do these things, which he cannot do. I'm saying let's accept that.
Yeah, let's have that Gen X tranquility and accept the ramen burger for its strengths and weaknesses. Ben.
My general philosophy on players is that you can't ask them to be something that they're not and then be mad when they are worse at it. In the way of people getting mad at Ben Simmons for not being a good shooter. Well, he's just not. People getting mad at Joel Embiid for being a poor ball handler. Well, that's who he is.
People getting mad at Jason Tatum for being Martell Webster. It's just a fact.
Like maybe he can be Luol Deng, but right now he's Martell Webster.
Exactly.
But you can't be mad at Redick when he's a bad defender because that's who he is.
Exactly.
You put him in the lineup as a bad defender, and then you're pissed that he's a bad defender.
Yeah. That's why I kind of root for suits and GMs, because this is a puzzle and every GM has their point of view. And I don't know, this is my very vague middleman, players as middlemen idea. Being like, you can't transform these players. They are what they are, and you put them together and you hope for the best.
Yeah, you can't make Al Horford and Josh Richardson get to the line as much as Jimmy Butler because that's not who they are.
You can't make any player play defense by just asking them to want it more. These are all skills that are in a scarce commodity, right?
Absolutely. One guy I think would help Philly and could potentially be available is Lonzo Ball. Because
yes, I love this.
the conventional wisdom is that the Sixers should just add shooters. Their shooting is fine. They need to take more, but what they need is guys who force you to take good shots, which is what Simmons is doing.
Go off.
Simmons is first in the league in creating threes, while the Sixers are fifth from the bottom. They don't have anyone else who is helping these guys get threes because they can't take them off the dribble. These guys are not able to just generate a three-pointer in the way that James Harden can. They need someone to do it for them. So to me, someone like Lonzo Ball, who is an elite distributor but doesn't compromise your defense, would be ideal, despite the fact that he's a mediocre shooter himself.
And I love this because I love chum in the water, and I think he could be had at a ridiculous discount right now. It seems he just got benched. He comes on and off the bench depending on how the Pelicans feel about him. I think he could be had for, unfortunately, Matisse Thybulle.
That's a tough one, man.
I love
and
Thybulle.
I've put that up on Twitter, and people are not receptive to it.
Well,
But
it's
to
like
me,
Star
that's what the
Wars,
deal
right?
would have to be, right? You know, like
Yeah.
if Lonzo Ball is a potential star, he is the only elite defender and elite distributor that's on the market. You can't get another one. They're either locked into long-term contracts, they're too valuable, or they won't be traded to you. The only way you get Lonzo Ball is because he is an atrocious scorer.
Yeah, and he's optically bad, and he has a vibe that people think his father's in his business and all this weird Markelle Fultz stuff. But if you can get him for Thybulle, who I love, you gotta do it. If you can add Lonzo Ball and not give up Tobias Harris, you're rolling, man.
If you traded Richardson for Lonzo Ball, I think you get better. But if you were able to give up
I like
Matisse,
Richardson, man.
Matisse for Lonzo probably wins you the title.
Everyone hates that because the
No, people are mad at that idea.
I mean, Sixers fans are like Star Wars fans. How dare you mess with my childhood memories of Matisse Thybulle that I've only had for like 2 months? And
This new toy is untouchable.
yeah, and Pelicans fans hate it because like he was the number 2 overall pick.
Pelicans fans, I don't think hate it. They don't like Lonzo.
Are there Pelicans fans?
No.
Yeah. So they're not ripping their young star Brandon Ingram for not wanting it enough?
I think they like Ingram, but don't like Lonzo. I could be wrong. I could they might be like, no, Lonzo's our guy. We're building around him. Trade Holiday. I have no clue. But the thing with Lonzo is that his shooting is not as bad as people think.
Yes.
He's only bad off the dribble. He's shooting 30% off the dribble, which stinks. It's like, it's not the worst, but it's not great. And he's shooting 35% on catch and shoot and like 45% from the corners. That's pretty viable.
Yeah. I just don't think you can get him. At the end of the day, I don't think Thybulle gets it done. I don't think Thybulle and a pick gets it done. I don't think Zaire, Thybulle, and a pick does that.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea because Lonzo only has one more year of being cheap too.
Yeah.
And look, Thybulle is incredibly valuable. He is adorable. He has charmed the organization and the city of Philadelphia.
With his artistic defense.
He is an outlier defender who has shot exceedingly well and above expectations so far. He's really good. He makes no money, and he's under contract for 3 more years. He is exactly the kind of piece that Philadelphia desperately needs to have. But maybe you can level up with that.
Don't salt my fantasy of having two balls at the Mecca, LaMelo and Lonzo running shit at
But
MSG.
Philly just does not have too many opportunities left to get stars without giving up their main core. Thibault kind of represents that right now.
I know.
And he's also totally cool if you say, no, we're going to keep him for 4 years, and he's going to be a great 3-and-D player, and he's going to help us immeasurably over that time. I totally get that too. But Lonzo has a skill set that specifically speaks to Philly's immediate need and is actually 6 months younger than Thibault.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. I'm more concerned with the contract, but Thibault's old as hell. What the?
That's what I mean, is that it's not like Thibault has this incredible ceiling that he's going to reach. He's really good, but it's not like Lonzo is a finished product either.
Yeah, and I'm obsessed with scarcity, and I think the Lonzo and Simmons prototype is extremely rare, almost to the point where they're the only two in the NBA right now who fit that prototype. So you got to acquire those players and figure it out later, because you can get a Thibault somewhere. I mean, Daryl Morey does it all the time. Every summer he gets that Thibault type of guy. You got to do it. Lonzo Ball on the Sixers is psychedelic. It has to happen.
So we talk about this before, like exponentialism, right? Mm-hmm. Where the Golden State Warriors just kept adding shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting, despite the flaws of Klay Thompson. And but the shooting magnifies itself. When you have one good shooter, a Korver or a Redick or a specialist, the defense bends around it. But when you have like three dudes who are really good shooters, it just becomes, as you said, psychedelic. It creates total chaos. On the other side is like diminishing returns of, say, rebounding. Mm-hmm. You don't need 5 great rebounders. Mm-hmm. That like you're going to get the rebounds anyway. You can probably do it with 2 great rebounders. But passing, I believe, is one of those exponential skill sets where if you had 2 passing geniuses on the same team, it doesn't matter that neither of them are good shooters.
Right.
Because they're just smarter. It's basketball genius. You don't need to be able to shoot. They know how this operates. And I think adding basketball IQ and passing to the Phillies to Philly would be enchanting. Just captivating.
All right. Star Wars 10. I agree, and I do.
2 dudes who are exceptional at rebounding and turning anything into a fast break on the floor together, looking for shooters, intoxicating.
Sounds like a perfume ad. And Lonzo dies on the vine in many scenarios, but in certain scenarios like the Sixers, the Lakers, any team that's a piece away, it just is an accelerational move. And
yes, that's a good phrase for him, an accelerant.
Yeah, man, and him and Simmons together is gonna get roasted on Twitter, but it's gonna be not only great but super fun. And I want it.
Yeah, when you have Tobias and you've got Richardson and you have Embiid, you have 3 guys who are clunky. They are not great passers. They hold the ball too long. They're indecisive. So having 2 guys and then Horford, who are snap decision makers and crisp basketball minds, I think would have a very serious upgrade. Because here's the thing: you can't get to the foul line as much as you used to. That's not on the table with your current personnel.
You got to give that up.
You have to become a different team.
Yeah,
you have to be a team that thrives off of, say, open threes or cutting or fast breaking, transition. You just cannot be a team that's shoots mid-range jumpers and doesn't go to the foul line.
Yeah, and Lonzo Ball can shoot a little bit, like you said.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that Ben Simmons is too ethical to take threes, but he just dunks every play. It's going to be – I just don't think Lonzo Ball is available at that price.
This is just total speculation. He might not be at all. It might be less. They might be trying to dump him. I have no clue.
I mean, shout out to Markelle Fultz.
So moving along to the second blockbuster game of Christmas Day, the battle for LA. What happened out there, Andrew Kuo?
The Lakers got bullied, and they were the beneficiary of a controversial call towards the end. Your boy Pat P. Bev, as we call them in China, deflected the ball out of LeBron's hands on a 3-point attempt to tie the game, and the call went the Clippers' way, and we argued relentlessly about this when we watched it.
Vacationing Jordan was there, also involved in this argument. Because, as we've said before, Jordan watches the game like a ref.
He does. He's a truther.
I watch it apparently like a player, and you watch it like a nerd.
Revenge of the Chads over here, man. A capitalist nerd. Great.
Buttigieg fever.
All right. So say your argument. What is your argument?
Well, let's set the
Set
table
the
here.
stage, right?
So in the closing seconds, the Lakers were down by 3. LeBron James had the ball along the wing behind the 3-point line.
If it was Kobe, he would have hit that shot.
LeBron didn't want it enough. LeBron goes up. Patrick Beverley knocks the ball out of his hands. It is called out on Patrick Beverley. When they replay it, you can see that it goes off of LeBron's hand, and then the ball goes to the Clippers, and the game is over. The argument here, I don't really know. What was our exact argument?
Because I have that Gen X tranquility, and you were both right, and I was neutral and calm. Your argument was, if I could paraphrase, about the cultural definition of a basketball play, and you kept referencing the culture of a game, not only in the NBA but in high school, at the Y, at the gym, at AAU, and Jordan was saying, but the actual evidence shows the truth, and we have to go with empirical evidence.
That's pretty accurate. So my position here is not that the call was wrong. I think they made the right call. I am irritated.
You were very irritated
by the entire situation around it, though, because for 46 minutes of an NBA game, for every level of sport in basketball, playground, pickup ball, high school, kiddie ball, college, whatever, if a player goes up and someone knocks the ball out of their hands, there's not an argument about it particularly. It just goes out of their hands. Even though probably when you slow motion it down, it does touch that person's hand last because the ball is in their hand. So that was kind of the irritating point about it, where it would be called the Lakers ball at any point in any game ever, except that when you slow it way down and you hit the ball out of someone's hands, it's in their hands, so it probably touches it last. And that's kind of what happened.
There's a great example, no sin bin, in baseball, the neighborhood play. Previously, before technology and before the instant replay, if the ball beat the runner to a bag, the defender didn't have to touch the bag with his feet. It was just in the vicinity of an out, so they deemed it an out. But with replay and technology, now you have to literally touch the bag, and it comes down to inches and fractions of a second. And that's just what we're doing now. And I get what you're saying. The culture of an action creating an optical result is enough to deem the action true. And technology kind of skews that. And when you look closer, maybe there's no truth that you knocked the ball out of the player's hand, therefore that action ends in your action. But it's confusing because I know what you're saying culturally.
I'm saying we have collectively decided as basketball fans that if you're holding the ball in your hand and someone knocks it out, it's out on them. We have decided this. If you had replay on every single one of those calls ever, it might become clear that 90% of the time it touches the person who is holding its hand, because a basketball is like, I don't know what the diameter of a basketball is, but a basketball is a large object, and if someone taps it, it has to leave your hand. And in that case, it touches it.
Hey, man,
if we'd accepted this from the jump, every time you knock the ball out of someone's hands, like, nope, our ball. And it would be normal. But last night's play did not feel normal for that reason.
But you sound you sound like somebody who is upset at someone for scoring when you have the lead. It's like, yo, that's not a basketball play. How dare you dunk the ball with 5 seconds left when you're up 10? I'm like, just do it. It doesn't matter. Like, I like this progression.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying,
but you're talking about culture.
I'm saying that's why that play was annoying. Not that the call was wrong. The call was right. It was off of LeBron's hand. And look, Beverly even recognized it and asked for the replay. More power to him.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that we have collectively decided that if someone hits the ball out of your hands, it is not like technically off the guy whose hand it was in. But when you replay it, this was the right call. But it was an annoying end to a game, and that we could have had a game winner, a play that is always goes that way on a replay did not, and then we were robbed of an ending of a game. It was a dissatisfying final play.
Lakers fan has logged on, but it reminds me.
Oh, I didn't even care who won. I just wanted someone to get a tying 3 up instead of having a call reversed and the game ended.
I know no one likes the Lakers, but like no sin bin again, no sin bin 2, more sin bin. This is the problem tennis is having, because it was so colorful when you had John McEnroe or Connors arguing with the ref about ins and outs of serves and balls, and that was a joy, and that created like cults of personality. But now we just have empirical evidence if a ball is in or out, and that kind of takes the joy away from the viewing experience. But I'm satisfied knowing the truth of it. I prefer that than arguing about feelings.
I had no problem at all with the actual call. I'm saying it didn't feel. It was feelings. It was 100% feelings. I have no problem with how it was decided. It was the right call. It was just annoying.
Yeah, and I'm on your side too with just like, come on, like, are we doing this? All right.
It touched LeBron's hand last. It's true. I'm just saying that it probably touches the guy's hand most of the time. Yeah,
and it helps not caring about wins or losses, because I like that they just got to the bottom of it, and I don't care who wins or loses, but at least they're making a move into an empirical discussion.
Another piece of news in the basketball world that came out today was also about the Pelicans and Zion Williamson, the number 1 overall pick in the draft, a college phenomenon who dunked on everyone's head relentlessly and has been out with a knee injury, I believe, all season, is apparently being taught how to walk and how to jump in a different way than he has done for his whole life. Is that going to work?
Oh, man. I mean, we talked about this last week. What is Zion Williamson? What makes him great? And what makes a guy or a thing a thing? What makes... I think it's a big problem. I think there was rumblings about this as maybe the only wrinkle in his number 1 overall draft status. The ceiling was the greatest of all time. The floor was not only Martell Webster, but somebody who doesn't... His biometrics don't add up to sustainability. And this is really sad, man.
I'm really worried about him. Zion was such a cool player, and I'm saying was as if it's past tense, but he is a really cool player.
Yeah.
We haven't seen him. He played a couple minutes in Summer League. He played some in preseason, and that was it.
Yeah. We've
gotten no Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
There was a video of him shooting around that surfaced, and he was wearing, baggy sweatpants and sweatshirt, which, was not of the Cookies pizza bully ilk, but
weird,
but cozy nonetheless. Yeah. And he looked huge. And this falls in line with the rumors that the team is not going to play him until even if he is healed, until he is in healthier shape to not re-hurt himself. And he looked big, man.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
No shaming. He was sizable.
He looks like a Sixer.
Elton Brand face.
Shout out to the interns. Yeah,
but man. You didn't look at Zion and say this is a guy who's lost a bunch of weight and he's coming back with a fury. You looked at it like we're not seeing him until next year.
Yeah, and we don't know what we're going to see. I mean, not to repeat ourselves, I want to take the opposite angle of digesting this information, which is maybe we're thinking too much about it. There's nothing to see here because he's recovering from a very simple procedure, a torn meniscus, I believe, and he's just going to get better, and it takes time. But in the meantime, we just struggle with framing it, so we have to say these things like maybe it's his weight. I'm trying to be positive about it. Maybe it's his biometrics, but in the end, he's just going to get better and come back.
Right, because even if his biometrics don't change, he was awesome in the preseason.
Yeah.
He got to the rim at will. It's just about, can he stay on the court? Yeah.
I don't know. And this makes me think of the Weissman news, which is, Memphis suspended him. He doesn't want to fight it. He just quit the team. He hired an agent, so he's out of the NCAA. And I kind of get frustrated at the Zion trajectory because we wasted those awesome games and awesome jumps for college basketball. And I have
Coach K didn't deserve that shit.
No, we deserve this as like an NBA community, and which is weird. But I have
the Cameron Crazies most certainly did not deserve that shit.
Shout out to Nate Freeman who saw him play down there. But I think
the one and done bust factory did not deserve that shit.
I am mad at colleges. Can I get on my soapbox for a second?
King, I'm going to humbly request that your sire now goes off.
I think colleges have become this evil entity in America where they've put young people in debt, capped their ceiling, made them all Martell Websters. Shout out to Martell Webster.
Go off.
But the student debt crisis is unreasonable, and it's like a wrinkle that the college system has figured out, and it has had awful consequences. And just seeing it in the microcosm of a Weissman or Zion, I'm like, can these guys make some damn money before we talk about their longevity in their profession? And I listened to some money podcasts, and how did this happen? Why is college so expensive? Why is it so unaffordable that it shackles you for the rest of your adult life? And it's because of it might be as simple as the number of jobs inside university has increased. So a lot of people who get promoted to high positions start hiring assistants. And this is your middleman point. These people don't have to exist. Every professor doesn't need 3 assistants, but they all have benefits. They all get paid a decent salary. And they all have retirement situations. So the cost of running that business has increased exponentially. Therefore, the cost of experiencing that product has increased exponentially. And that's just fucked up. And I think all the candidates we like for president have addressed this. But if you look at what happened to Zion, it just gets my blood boiling, man.
What about, though, the counterpoint here is, what if the NCAA is just doing their best, Kuo? They're just doing their best that they can.
They rip off their boomer masks to reveal an Ethan Hawke-esque face, Winona Ryder.
They're just doing the best they can. This is what it's like arguing with you. What if the NCAA is? They're just they're
being their
just
best
trying. They're trying. They're not perfect.
Oh wow, you make such a good point. Done. That's what it feels like arguing with me. You're right, Ben. You're totally right.
That's
more
true.
wisdom.
Yeah, maybe the NCAA is, I don't know, just a wistful of a different time.
Oh yes, I'm very interested in this. Go off. I mean, man, I think Zion getting hurt is just a results thing, and we're taking on the result, and we're gonna know more in a year. But I don't think he should try to play at all, and I think that's okay. And this year is going to be fun, and we're seeing all this play out. We don't need Zion this year. Let's focus on, if you like Zion, you'll love the Sixers. There's ways to experience the NBA and give this young man some time to get better and lay off those nachos.
White van scam man, good. NCAA college scam bad.
I mean, I'm bummed.
I'm saying this is true.
Yeah.
The individual little guy scammer, cool. That guy does not cripple anyone with debt. He gives you shitty speakers at a fair price.
That cookies theme never sounded so bad. I mean, if anything, it makes for a good story. But, right, student debt does not make for a good story. That's a horror show. But I think Zion will be fine.
We're also learning that America has transformed the institutions that are supposed to help us and supposed to make us prosperous and smart and healthy into levers for destroying your life. And that's not how it should be.
Yeah, I mean, I think the environment's important, but that's not going to be the challenge of our life. I think the challenge of our generation in America is a wealth gap. And
right. So, like, what if education and health, two things that would improve your life, immeasurably ruin it? Could I interest you in that option? It's fucking crazy, dude.
It does not make sense. Talk about psychedelic. It just does not make sense.
It's so wild.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's cool that I can avoid getting sick and hurt, and I can get smarter. Yeah, but it'll destroy your entire life.
Right. And there's a chance that the opposite will be even worse. It's just, it sucks, man.
You'll have to drop out, and then you'll get cancer.
Yeah. And I happily went to college. My college years are the best years, and they were the Star Wars of my memory. But, like, yo, it's fucked up, and we should change it, and we should change the NCAA, and the NCAA can have March Madness, and it could still exist. Just take care of guys, man. Don't kick Weissman out of the league.
Last I heard of him, he's driving around in a van.
Selling sneakers to Cookies fans.
What a fate.
To all our Cookies listeners, if Weissman rolls up to you in a white van, buy those damn speakers.
He's walking around, bumping into people and dropping his glasses and a glass bottle of Smirnoff to make ends meet.
Yeah, just give him your social security number, your date of birth, and the name of your first cat. That's bad scamming.
Bad scamming.
Be a good scammer.
Be an
not a
ethical
bad
scammer.
Yeah.
How bad of a scammer can you be if you have a white van?
Yes.
Like, that's an investment.
White vans get a bad rep, man.
They really do.
God damn.
I mean, look at the media outrage against white vans. First, you have the specter of roaming pedophiles with their white vans. Then you had the DC snipers in a white van,
which ended up not being the case, but we thought it was a white van.
But we villainized the white van.
Mm-hmm. We have the white Bronco, which is not a van, but it's still white.
Yeah, that kept accused murderers that were eventually found to be innocent.
But guilty memorabilia thieves. Lock them up.
An infamous memorabilia thief.
You stole memorabilia that's about you? You're going to jail, buddy.
Don't fuck with my childhood.
Yeah, the white van, man. Shout out to white vans, the deplorable vehicles.
There's got to be some other bad one. Oh, like the threat of a terrorist attack, right? Like the white box van pulling up and like blowing up a bridge or something. Like the white van just is. It's never like a green van.
A red van.
It's the white van.
There's no airbrushed unicorn van threat. No Herculean airbrushed muscle man that plays for the Sixers van threat.
No, it's just the white van. I mean, if there's any race war, it's against the white van.
It's freedom of van speech, Ben. You snowflakes just can't handle the whiteness of my van. But
when I was talking about a race war, I was talking about a vehicle race war. A race war. Get it? Race like race cars.
Did you hear that amazing Twitter viral tweet of a woman who goes to see a Pelicans game? I forgot what the home team was. And someone behind her was like, I hate Drew Holiday. And she was outraged because she was like, how dare they say, shout out to Uncut Gems, our favorite movie of the year, how dare they say I hate Drew Holiday. And then her boyfriend would be like, oh no, the Pelicans best player is named Drew Holiday.
On Hanukkah?
Yeah.
You're disliking Drew Holiday?
Can Keith Van Horn just get his buckets?
He is the comparison to all players, and I love it.
I
would say your performance today was reminiscent of KVH.
Thank you, sire. And I think your performance today was reminiscent of Keith Van Horn.
Oh, nice. And it was cool to see Jordan last night. He reminded me a lot of this former player on the Nets and the Knicks and the Sixers. His name was Keith Van Horn.
Oh, you mean Utah legend? Horn Sanity?
This has been a very special episode of Christmas Cookies.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Cookies.
To everyone, white man fans.
Easy, man. You're losing your Van Hornishness as we speak.
Cookies.
Cookies.